I'd just like to ask you a few questions. If you want to answer, that'd be great. How many of you are able, between the inhale and the exhale, to find yourself lost in thoughts? That's honest, yeah. I was thinking as we were sitting there, you know what a little bit of time that is. But I could catch myself doing the same thing, just being, and I was coming back to the inhale and to the exhale, but there's a lot of room in between those two. And can you see a pattern, or can you see what kind of thoughts you typically get in that very short period of time? Do you have a favorite thought you get lost with? Or a favorite kind of habitual pattern of thoughts?
Mostly what I've done today, like going over what I've done, or else going over what I have.
Those are favorites.
Sometimes I feel like you have thoughts that you've just been waiting for an opportunity to think about, and so when the meditation happens, it's like, okay, oh yeah, that stuff I was thinking about, now I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
If I meditate regularly enough, those don't come up as much, but if it's been a while, it's like, oh yeah, all those things, all that stuff, that kind of pops back out. It's not even a specific thought as much as like catching up.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I like that.
May I find your clarification on being lost in thought? In those thoughts, you're lost. I felt very at home, but I would love to do it with this being lost.
Okay, I guess when I say lost, I mean like what we're doing is supposed to be staying with our breath, right? Not following our breath through our bodies, but staying with the inhale and then staying with the exhale again. So when I say lost in thought, that's what we're doing most of the time in our lives. So it means I'm maybe in a story, or I'm seeing a thought and thinking, oh yeah, I was gonna, that might be an interesting thought, an interesting idea, or like, I love what you said, it's something that maybe we haven't had time to think about, but it's up there, right? So we're with it. So when I say lost in our thoughts, I guess I'm speaking about relative to what we're doing. What we're wanting to be doing is to stay, inhale and exhale.
So my gathering of that is that these are the stories that we don't take time, or that I haven't necessarily taken time to tell myself as to what's happening until I slow down.
Well, that's a very good, that's a very good thought. It might mean that we need to have just quiet time before or after we meditate. Like that might be a good signal that, oh gee, maybe I need to sit down and just think sometimes, like give ourselves that. And if you have a busy life, that can be hard to do. Do you have kids at home? Well, there you go. If you have a moment to yourself, they know it, they hone in on it. Yeah, it's those, because that's the way our lives are, right? We have a lot of noise in our lives, and we have a lot of people needing things, and things like jobs that people expect us, to stay and be focused in a job. So, yeah, it might be that we need more space to be lost in those thoughts. That's not a bad thing. But we can see, and Todd, like you said, there's a lot of that, okay, did I get everything done? It's like a to-do list, right? And what do I have to do before I can go to bed tonight? Or do I have to stop at a grocery store? That you can just see a mental check list.
I figured out for myself that if I get here 5 minutes early, just spend that time decompressing and make some meditation.
That's a good suggestion.
Sensitivity of driving in itself, just the act of heightened
safety. It takes a few minutes to bring that down. Just walk in here.
Mm-hmm.
Bring the meditation.
And this room should be quiet for people to do that. So that's a really good idea. Try to give yourself some extra time so you can just come and sit and have a delicious thought, or have that period of just relaxing into.
I tell myself that it's okay to have thoughts leading up to it, try to get them out.
Yeah.
Try to decompress, slow down.
Yeah, that's a good idea to help, because we don't have a lot of quiet time in our lives generally. And if we do, we try to put a lot of noise into those. It's easy to introduce noise, even if we have a quiet life. We can find ways to jazz it up, with sound. So what else did?
It's fun when we do the loving kindness. I start visualizing the people in my life, and I easily get distracted. I think about my father. When's the last time I called him? We should probably go play golf when it gets warm. And then before I know it, the minute has gone by. Oh, I'm supposed to be focusing on my breath.
Yeah, even in loving kindness, we're being guided, right? But we can. Someone told me once they had when it came to their loved ones, they had such a big family that they got so distracted thinking of all the people that they had to remember, and then they'd get, oh, did I forget somebody? So, sometimes I'll say, just maybe think of just a few of your loved ones. Because I know a lot of people really are trying to think of every person that fits that category. And the thing is, the more we practice and the more we are living this life, that group gets bigger and bigger, because it starts including people that maybe we didn't have in that category before. So, yeah, and then even if we just have a few people, it's thinking, oh, I need to call. That's another thing on the list. Oh, I need to call. Yeah, our minds love it when we sit down to meditate. I mean, they think, now's my chance. Now's my chance to get his full attention. He's been busy all day. And so we're training our minds to be more cooperative with us, We're training our minds to kind of let go of that grip. But it is training. So it's good to look and see what are our favorite distractions, what are the habitual thinking patterns we have. For some people it might be they're just fine, but then suddenly maybe there's somebody near them making a lot of noise, or there's traffic sounds that bother them. So maybe their distraction becomes, why isn't this place quieter? Or why do the cars in the summer, keep their windows rolled down and the music up really loud? And that can be their habitual kind of pattern, like finding something that's irritating, and it's irritating their senses. And that can become a whole thing in itself. If you smell too strong, sometimes some of the flowers, if they've been here for a while, if we've had a big event, and it starts smelling like a funeral home to me. And it'll just be one time, but it's usually after there've been lots going on. And that faint smell can just become like I just want to, start rubbing my nose and looking around at the offending arrangement. But we find little things like that our senses are just waiting for something like that to let them play with us. So we're guarding this time. We're guarding those sense doors. because once we let that stuff in, then our mind has something wonderful to interact with, and we can create emotions from that, because I like it, I don't like it, or think of the things that you're neutral about that maybe a year ago really bothered you, like traffic sounds, or we used to all talk a lot about the temperature of the room, if the floor heater worked or not, and it seems like we get over that after several years of it not working. It's not so important. You just dress for the occasion, be ready to layer up. But so we're guarding our sense doors, and our mind is one of our senses. But that mind starts interacting with everything that comes in, and it just has a field day. And if we're being quiet, if we're not engaged in something, it can be. I know when I did the 10-day Vipassana, oh my goodness, my mind was just creating things out of nothing, and just in between those breaths, I was like making outer space movies in my head. I was in it. I was lost in it, in a different reality.
The 10-day Vipassana.
There's a group. Vipassana. The word means insight, but there is also a group called the Vipassana, and they have a way to meditate they're in the Theravadan tradition, but they have, from Burma, where the tradition originated, they have teachers working for a long time. Certain monks were teaching specific ways working with the breath. And so that group now does 10-day meditation retreats. They have about 100 centers, I think, in this country. They're all over the world. And there's no cost to them. At the end of it, you can make a donation if you like, but you go and stay in a retreat setting, real kind of bare bones, but you're meditating from early morning until like maybe between 9 and 10 at night. And 2 meals. You have breakfast and lunch, and then tea, just tea later for an evening meal. And it took me, I first heard about them in the early 80s. I was living in Japan, and some friends of mine wanted to take this thing. And I just said, no, there's no way I'm going to do anything like that. I just couldn't even imagine meditating, much less doing it for 10 days. And so my life obviously changed somewhere after that. But there's actually one near Rockford. There's one of the centers. So if you're ever interested in a 10-day meditation, we've got a center an hour from here. And once you do it one time, you can come back and do it shorter periods of time. So there are a lot of good things about it. But I think that first time we do those, we're challenging ourselves. Like, can I survive 10 days? Can I do it? And there are all kinds of stories, like the people who run away on the 3rd day, and the people who disappear in the middle of the night and sneak out. So there are lots of great stories like that. But watching my mind it was very powerful, because I thought it's unbelievable how far my mind could go after you get bored, you get uncomfortable, you get into everybody creates a little nest, and you're okay for a while, and then everything falls apart at certain times, and you just experience a wide range of internal drama. But I discovered I had a lot of cinematography experience somewhere stashed away. A lot of science fiction movies. And I was so completely lost up in it, I would I mean, I would catch myself being in another outer space adventure, and just like that, I could be gone. So it was a humbling experience.
Did you find all 10 days equally difficult, or did it get easier by day?
I think some days were could be kind of smooth, but it didn't follow any kind of a regular pattern. I was thinking, by day 5 things might get smooth, and it became maybe more physically comfortable as it went on, but the mind does its own thing.
I had a question about dealing with comfort or just physical problems while meditating. I feel like that would take my mind a lot away often, like you said, in the breath. Headache, stomach hurts, this or that hurts. There's no way I can focus on anything but try not to be upset about those things.
Those are things that we can learn to work with our meditation, so we don't. So for me, if I have a pain like in my hip or something and it's hard to sit, that'll take my attention. And Bhante and I were talking about that just a little bit before. And if we identify too much with that pain, like my head's killing me, we start identifying with it too much. So it's ours. This is my pain. And we can stay with it. But other times, what I often will do if I have a headache is just breathe into it and just acknowledge it's there. But just breathe into it, and a lot of times that headache's gone before the meditation is over. So I think there are some techniques to work with body pain that can help. But one thing...
Not allowing yourself to suffer.
What?
Like willfully choosing not to suffer or have it be a negative thing.
Yes, and also don't if we label it as mine, then it might stay with us even more. So it's acknowledging it and accepting it, but then sometimes it's good with pain to even look at it. Just look at it from different viewpoints and think, well, it's not like solid pain. There's maybe a throbbing to it, or there's a rise and a fall. It's not just pain. It can be, it can go up and down. It can go, it can be more intense, and you might find that if you breathe and sense yourself like breathing into that spot, you might see the pattern changes but be willing to let it go. Don't hold on to it too much. Try to open it up. Try to let it, just imagine just the opening up to let it go. And some of it we can just be with if it's from our posture, or I don't do well suffering through a pain in my body from sitting, but I've heard different people talk about just like the way they learned to sit was to just endure the discomfort until they forgot about it. That doesn't work well for me, but I've heard.
It hurts for me to sit straight for a little while, so I just try to do it a little longer than I can, and then I go out of it and just come to the posture.
And that's working with it. That's good.
So the yoga place, and yoga was invented for monks. The meditation is about the breath. So, and scientifically proven the breath. And the exhale tells to let go on the waist. So you inhale into that spot instead of focusing on your nose in the breath. And then you exhale, it releases your, wherever your mind goes, the breath follows, and feeling it to exhale, you could just say let it go and keep feeling it and release.
They're just releasing on the exhale. Yeah. And I find that works. It's. Mm-hmm. And we tell people they can do that, but most people will think, unless everybody else is getting up and walking, they feel uncomfortable doing it. But it's fine to do that. Or a lot of people will get up from the cushion and sit in a chair, and then come back. Yeah, and those are good things to do. Or it might be, if you've got certain physical issues, walking meditation may be preferable for your body. And that's good. We can work with our posture in different ways. Being on your back is a good way, but I find that when I've done that in retreats, people fall asleep so quickly on their back. I mean, some people will stay awake, but if somebody's at all tired, they'll be out, and that's okay, but if they're snoring, it's not okay for the other people in the group.
Standing still is home, and I can focus on my whole, like the straightness of my whole body instead of just from it takes a lot of muscle to hold the air still erect when you're sitting, but when you're standing, it's a lot easier.
Yeah. When I was in Sri Lanka at one retreat center, they were it was very good about allowing people in not a super big room, but to sit, and then you could get up and walk in the center of the room, or you could stand up. And I found that getting up and standing was really good for me, just standing. I could really feel things kind of get to a better place. And that's okay to do here. Yeah, thank you for your professional advice about that. But think about where your body tends to hold. What's the favorite part of your body that hurts when you're if you're in distress? It might be your head, or it could be your gut, or lower back in your jaw. Yeah. I discovered I grind my teeth at night. I had a terrible. I thought my teeth were on fire. So I thought I couldn't figure out what tooth was bad, and my whole mouth was in pain. And I went to the dentist, and she just said, "Well, do you have a mouth guard?" I said, "Yeah, but I don't wear it anymore." And she said, "Well, it's your jaw you're just grinding away at night." And there was no tooth infected. It was just all this going on. So yeah, we have some powerful parts in our body that can cause a lot of discomfort and pain when they're at work when we least expect it, right? So sometimes that if you know those parts of your body, you can become really familiar with them, and when they're starting, you can become really sensitive to something's rising in you because you begin to know your body well enough. And so when that happens, if you work with your breath, you can often relax that part of your body and can be really helpful. There's a meditation I've been working with lately and doing it with different groups, and it's Tara Brach's meditation with RAIN, the recognize, accept, investigate, and then return to nurture, and then returning to a neutral position. But in it, she had that we are working with something as you're meditating. If you recognize an emotion that just kind of drops down into your mind or into your practice, and you can work with that emotion, that emotional state from a certain situation, using the acronym RAIN, recognize, allow, investigate, and then the nurturing and returning to neutral is how you end it. But in it, she says, as you're investigating this emotion that you see, you can, she says, in part of it, like even let your face get the expression on your face that emotion evokes. So, if you're meditating, even in a group, your eyes are closed. And it's amazing if you allow your face to get into that, like if it's your jaw or something that if it's anger, think of the face you might make, or if you're really angry about something, or if you're sad, and that getting your face into that position is really powerful. And then you have to have that ending part, the nurturing and the returning to neutral, because you've been working with how does this emotion feel as it arises in your body? And how does it feel when you allow your face to become contorted or just get into that, whatever that sense is? Because then you have to undo that. And the last group I was working with that, someone said they could feel their whole body squeezing, just getting like a sausage almost. And they needed that, the nurturing and the returning to neutral they needed that to be longer, just to kind of shake it off, get it out of your body. Because you don't want to get stuck with that. We need to know how to breathe and relax and let go of those things. And that's true with the physical stuff, but it's really true with the emotional things. We carry those carry a big wallop with us in our bodies. Well, thank you everybody for your good talk.